Okay, I need to start with a little bit of love for South Carolina. And I need to do that by starting with making fun of myself. So we came out here, I had been traveling with some friends prior to, but we got up at 4 in the morning, came out, made it out here waiting for our Uber, and got our Uber, made it out to the resort, got to our room, and I said, where is my backpack? I didn't have my backpack with my computer and my laptop and my passport and everything else. And like a good husband, I went and I blamed my wife because she made me take off my backpack to get a selfie to send to the kids back, wherever they are in the world. And I left it on a black bench, and it was a black backpack, and got in the Uber and went into panic. My presentation, everything else. I'm getting old. I can't remember things. So we're getting on the phone, trying to get a hold of the driver, calling the airport, nobody to talk to. We called the police department at the airport and got the nicest lady at dispatch. She had us call back on a different number, so we didn't tie up the emergency, sent a police officer. My backpack was still there, everything in it. That would not happen in San Francisco or New York or Milwaukee or any place else. Love for South Carolina. The other thing I appreciated is you started off your meeting, you led with prayer. How great is that you can lead with faith and not be afraid of sharing your faith? That's been an important part of our family. And so I really appreciate that. And it's great to be here in South Carolina. Now, why am I here? I'm here because of this handsome young man who just introduced himself. Like James said, we met in college. He was in New Mexico. I grew up in California. I escaped. I would never go back, but my parents are still there, so we visit. But we both represented our regions and spent a lot of time together. So that's back when I had a full head of hair, probably a good 40-plus pounds lighter. And that's back when James was still struggling to be able to grow a mustache. Spent a lot more time doing his hair in the mornings, all that kind of good stuff. So many thanks to Stevie and James' mom for helping me out, to be able to show what he was. But I will say, we called him Rico Suave because he really could cut a rug and dance. And even this morning, we're standing up front. I know he still dances because the music's going. He's, talking to me and dancing. But move on. He always brought the energy, but it was great. It's been really nice to be able to rekindle and get to see James again. And we have stayed in contact. And, how great is friendship? And that's where investing in people and having authentic relationships, you can go a long time between seeing each other. And it's just like you didn't skip a beat, So he doesn't like being up. He was up here earlier. He doesn't like this. Okay, so as James said, I said, well, is there anything I should share, anything I should know, and how do I connect with the audience here in the makeup? And he goes, you got to talk about your pyromaniacs. And I'm like, I'm a little bit obsessed with fireworks. It's grown over the years and that kind of stuff. But he said, this is a good, patriotic, Southern, group of folks, and they'll appreciate that. So I'm like, all right, at the risk of sounding a little braggadocious or anything, that's not my intention, probably more obsession. But so we are a patriotic family. 4th of July is important for us. I have a son who likes to go and takes us to my backyard. He likes to go and cut the grass every year and make it look like an American flag. And then we throw a big party every year. And so that's my family. It's my wife in the middle and my 4 kids. We're empty nesters now. Actually, my oldest son is back working from home. He works remote and saving money to buy a house. But my shirt, which you can't read very well, it says fireworks director, says I run, you run. And that's because we don't do just a little bit of fireworks. It's grown over the years. This is how fireworks get delivered to my house. So if you at all are obsessed or you spend a little bit of money on fireworks at your local, you need to talk to me or have James send me your contact information. I'll square you up. I get distributor pricing, and so can you if you spend enough. So literally they get delivered to my house, and then I spend time, and I've learned over the years, I have a big trailer, and I start setting it up, taking off the tops, and wiring everything up in my trailer. I actually can run my show from my phone and have it set to music, usually 15, 20 minutes. We start, when it gets dark enough, we start with the sparklers, and then we get into the fun stuff. So these are actual videos I just grabbed from some of the people who are watching, and it goes like this for about a good 15, 20 minutes every year. Usually about 5 songs worth. So I won't bore you, with all that, but if you like fireworks and down south, so that's my obsession. So thank you. Literally, I will set you up. If James sends me your contact, I'll hook you up with my distributor guy. So a little bit about myself. So I grew up in food manufacturing. James went on to be a consultant with fraternity. I started working for General Mills, then went to work. I was running cereal plants, fruit snack plants all over the country. Met my wife, Jen, in Minnesota. Lived in Ohio, Iowa, spent time in New York, Georgia, all over the place. And we ended up in Wisconsin. After General Mills, I went to work for a company called Schreiber Foods. Was under $1 billion when I started. 21 years later when I left, over $7 billion. Today is over 10, one of the largest ESOPs, 100% employee-owned. Became employee-owned when I was working there. Schreiber Foods does natural cheese, processed cheese, cream cheese, and yogurt, one of the largest yogurt manufacturers in the world. One of the 9 out of 10 cheeseburgers, to give you perspective, has their cheese on it. So we did McDonald's, In-N-Out, Wendy's, everybody. Most of all the processed cheese on your cheeseburgers had our cheese on it. And if you got cream cheese, if it wasn't Kraft Philly, it was probably ours. Anyhow, so I did a lot of things there, from supply chain, logistics, replenishment, distribution, procurement, all the way up to going back, and I ran all the cream cheese network of plants, ran yogurt plants, got into strategy side, actually ran the commercial, went into sales, ran commercial R&D, the whole works, and was on the board, was there for 21 years. Great company. Ended up, changing roles, ended up going to Johnsonville, was there as a COO during the pandemic. Later got recruited into a smaller company. The first, I wanted to stay in the private sector. Went to Stella & Chewy's premium pet food, freeze-dried pet food. It was a bit of a mess, got recruited in and made a lot of changes. I was an early adopter of some technology that I'll talk about in smart radios, so communication inside of manufacturing. And I joined a company from that because I was an early adopter of the technology in Weavix. And so Weavix is a smart radio. I'll talk a little bit more about that coming up, but I'm a little bit of a techie nerd, so I like to learn, the techie side of things. I was early adopter on many things when I was growing up, and the same here in today's space. And I want to encourage you to think about, given the makeup of the audience, that there's opportunities for you, especially when it comes to AI and how you might adopt it and maybe rethink your approach up to this point. So just a shameless plug for Weavix. So a quick story, when I was with Johnsonville during the pandemic, there you're making the world's best sausage, and we had harvest facilities, and we had sausage manufacturing facilities, and finding labor is a challenge. Still is a challenge. It's come up a couple times today. And we were trying to bring people from Puerto Rico and Mexico and others, and one of the things was always a challenge was, how do you communicate? And translators and those kind of pieces. When I got to Stella & Chewy's, it was even more challenging. 12 languages spoken in my facilities. I had Albanian, Bosnian, I had a lot of Hispanics, but communication was really a challenge. And one of the things I was looking for was, how can we solve that problem? And it seemed silly to me that at this day and age, that really was not solved. And it's getting better, but there was no platform for out in manufacturing. So I was actually, one of the reasons I went to Stella & Chewy's, it was owned by Stripes, PE equity, invests in food companies and in high tech. So I was advocating to try to create and give me some developers, and let's create a platform using some of the smart technology that's out there. Now, Ken Fox, the founder of Stripes, I was talking to him at my first board meeting, at dinner and kind of re-advocated this is something we should think about. And he set the research team out, and they found this company called Weebix that was just starting to market. So startup company, just starting to get out there. And I started to look at what they had and what they were doing, and it was a lot of what I was looking for. And so they have a platform that they've developed that, I'll back up. I analogize it, Motorola today to Kodak back when digital film was coming out. Kodak was very resistant. People never move away from their film into digital. My wife was very resistant to moving away from having her prints, and she was very good at taking one picture and not taking 100 of them to find the one that was good because of digital, because it was so expensive to get everything developed. That's how Kodak was. You think about Kodak and what they owned at the time in their market share to what they are today. Very different, right? Resistant to that technology. That's what I think about today when I think about communication manufacturing, especially many of you. Your teams probably use some form of two-way radio communication in different environments. It's not smart technology. It's a two-way. It works well in some environments. But what this offers and what we offer at Weebix that was so compelling when I was an adopter of the technology is it transcribes everything you say. So everything you say gets automatically transcribed and written out, and you have that record of what's out there. It'll translate it if you need it. Again, I had 12 languages spoken at Stella & Chewy's. It has geo-tracking to the extent that you want to use it. And we always say only use it for good. People always get really worried about tracking, and what I would tell people in my teams is, look, can it track you? People be nervous. I say, absolutely can, but I want it to. Because if we have an ammonia leak in our facility, we need to get everybody out. I can use this to make sure everybody's out of the building. And if anybody is left behind, I know exactly where they are to send first responders in there, to send hazmat in there, so I'm not putting other people at risk. That's part of the power and what you could do. Now, if you're going to use it where you're going to just go and try to find somebody, so I would say we didn't use it for discipline unless you're going to be egregious. You disappear for 4 hours, and we're worried about your safety, and we find you sleeping in your car, you're going to get terminated. But we also didn't approach it where we constrained people. We left all the features on it. It also has camera, video, so I can be out on the floor. I can take a picture, send it to maintenance, or I can take a video about what's going on with my piece of equipment. They can see, and if they have too many calls, they might be able to coach the operator, or they can determine the prioritization because they have a better sense about what's going on, especially, or what tools I might need to bring depending on where the crib is or where they're working from. Lots of ways that I can use it, but now we didn't use it to go and hold people accountable in terms of discipline unless it was egregious, but we wanted people to not be afraid of it. I told people we're not going to turn off the camera, we're not going to take the videotape, but somebody's going to be an idiot. Somebody will go and take a picture inappropriately in a bath or do something like that, and as soon as they do, that record's there, and they're going to be terminated. The first weekend we rolled it out at Stella & Chewy's, we had somebody we terminated because they were inappropriate on the radio. After that, I had no problems. And guess what? In the first 3 months, there was something like, and don't quote me, I don't remember right now, I should know it, but it was like 480,000 messages that were sent. You talk about adoption and manufacturing. Many of you have some form of manufacturing, whether it be in power or your development or whatever it is. Adoption of new technology is tough, right? It's usually pushed. This was much more of a pull for us, but part of that was because of how we led too. We were using it to empower people, not to go and track and to beat people down or to kind of minimize them. We wanted to be able to get more out of them. So anyhow, so that's Weebix is a smart platform. It's one where I can go and use my phone. We have a radio, we call it a WALT, that is what's going out there because I don't want cell phones out on most of the manufacturing floors. People aren't allowed to have them out there. This is a controlled environment, so like pictures and that kind of stuff are inside that inside of our environment, so it doesn't go outside. I can also use a computer, and there's all kinds of different ways you can use it, but it's smart. But one of the things that we run into, I'm going to talk a little bit more about, is infrastructure. So as you're developing, as an example of what we're doing here, if you don't have infrastructure, you can't use it. And we run into that with a lot of places don't have the ability to have connectivity across the board. They might have a good pipe into their facilities, but they don't have a way of distributing and making sure that everybody is connected. And that's something that I think is going to become more and more important as we go forward. All right, so let's spend a few minutes on AI. How many of you consider yourself non-techies, non-AI people? You can be okay. How many people in the room think that they're an AI expert? Not many, huh? How many of you use AI every single day? Okay, good for you. Probably ChatGPT or one of those to help you with writing and stuff. Great. How many people, let's see who's brave. How many people don't use AI every day? Thank you for being honest. So I'm going to give a few examples of some AI tools that are out there. Some of you are going to go, yeah, obviously. And others are going to go, oh, wow, I didn't realize that's how it worked. Part of, for me, is I like to think about it as, too often people use information as power, right? I want to be smarter than you. That's how I get an advantage, that kind of stuff. For me, I want it to be like, how do we share and build each other up? How do we not, I'm not trying to make myself look smarter than you. I want to make you understand how simple some of these things are and what it means going forward and how you can apply it, maybe change some of your work, some of your companies. So here's an interesting one. This is just in the last month. Many of you, maybe some of you saw the Joe Rogan interview with Elon, but Elon's prediction is AI will be smarter than any single human by the end of the year. Smarter than any single person on Earth. And by 2029, AI will probably be smarter than all of humanity combined. Now, is that scary? It's a little bit scary, right? It's scary, but it's also an opportunity. If you want to go and just say that it's not for me, it's for the young generation, the next generation, and I'm not going to invest in it, shame on you. That's complacency. And if that's your attitude, you should be scared. Now, if you want to try to figure out how do you embrace it, how do you leverage it, how do you have it help you in your environment, help your teams, you should be doing that, and you should be out in front because many others and many other companies have a complacent attitude. But it is changing so fast, it's crazy. I remember, I'm going to pick on my wife, Jen, in the back. I remember when we first got married, my wife, Jen, was raised. She's very good at writing letters, thank you notes, that kind of stuff. I'm not always as good. But she said, I'm never going to email. It's so impersonal. There's no way I'm going to use email. Guess what happened within the next few years? And then texting, she's like, I don't understand that with the kids and what they're doing in text. I'm never going to be texting that kind of stuff. Yeah. Guess what she does today? Just like all of us, right? If you have that attitude about AI, shame on you. Now, I would say there is a chance AI could be really bad for all of humanity. There's also an 80% chance it could be great. There's a lot we're going to have to do together, but if you're going to sit on the sidelines, the odds of it not being great for you or for others is higher. The more we use and we have the right controls and people understand it, the better off we are. So let me use a couple examples. First, I say, how do you build your AI superpowers? You have to invest some time. How many of you are intentionally investing time trying to learn ways to use AI? Raise your hands proudly. Good for you. The rest of you can learn from them, right? The older we are, the harder it is sometimes. Leverage your tools to learn from others. Now, what do I mean by this? So what I mean by this is there's this bridge. Some of us are a little bit older now, have a little bit more experience, and what does that mean that we have? We have a thing that's called wisdom. Wisdom can only be gained through experience. Then we have the next generation that's grown up with tools, very comfortable with AI and these kind of things, but they don't have wisdom. Magic happens when you can combine those together. we talk about mentoring, we talk about reverse mentoring, but oftentimes pride gets in the way. Why not, if you're a leader in your company and you're not using AI personally and that kind of stuff, why not go and start reverse mentoring, connecting with those who are technically competent in this platform and learning from them on how to do things differently? Why are you not thinking about that and trying to find ways to use it? Why are you not encouraging inside your company where you have contests, find ways to go and eliminate waste or use technology to make life better? Leverage those who have the skill, and then what you can do is share wisdom and experience with them, right? Think about that. Other thing is, think about the things that you hate to do. Think about the jobs and the tasks in your work that you don't like to do. That's where you focus on applying AI. That's how you make it something that you're going to embrace. So, for example, as I've gotten older, I hate doing things like writing up job descriptions, writing up, long notes or taking the strategic plan. I can outline things now, and I can go and I could say, hey, ChatGPT, go and write up a best-of-class job description for an AI prompt developer or for a site engineer or for a project manager. Then I could just modify it. What might take me an hour to do by myself, with the initial starting point, I can be done in less than 5 minutes. I'm going to show you an example of that for those who don't really use ChatGPT on a regular basis. The other thing is have fun and play with it. It doesn't even have to be for work. Go and figure out, play with things. Can I use ChatGPT? Can AI help me to lay out my garden and to have a really strategic plan and what should I do and that kind of stuff, given the dimensions of what I have? What can it help me with in the kitchen? There are so many things that it can do. You're only limited by how you might think to apply it. And you're only going to think about ways to apply it when you start using it. Now, here are some examples, okay? How many in this room, has anybody heard of Notebook LM? There you go. I got a few hands going up. Many others haven't used it, right? This is crazy. This one is one of my favorites. Okay, so I took the program today. I created it, I downloaded it and created a PDF. I dumped it into Notebook LM, and I said, create a podcast. And in 1 minute, this is what I got.
Okay, so today we're going deep on economic development.
All right.
But specifically an event called EDR, Economic Development Review.
EDR.
Yeah, and maybe you wouldn't think an event about reviewing economic development is
Right.
the most exciting thing, but I think it's actually where a lot of the interesting stuff happens.
I agree. Yeah.
And we have an expert here to help us kind of unpack all of this.
Okay, so dynamically just takes what you have and starts creating a podcast. That's pretty cool, right? Well, I took it a step further. I'm not even an AI expert, okay? I'm just pretending to be one. I slept at a Holiday Inn, But everything I'm doing, guess how I learned it? YouTube, TikTok, any of those kind of things. So I took and I used tools that were all free. I took what the output was from Notebook LM and this podcast that we had. I split the male and female voice. I created 2 avatars that look like real people. And I brought it back together. And this is what you get.
And we have an expert here to help us kind of unpack all of this.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So we're looking at this document. It's called South Carolina Power Team.
Those are not real people.
.pdf.
Okay.
And it's all about this economic development review that's happening in 2025.
Oh, cool.
Which is now.
Right.
And so first thing I noticed in this document is they have this welcome message.
Okay.
And it says, we strive to provide a setting for education, inspiration, and networking. And we hope you find all of these during your time with us.
Interesting.
Just learning about parts and
Yeah.
graphs.
Is that not crazy? Half of the videos you see on TikTok or other things are AI generated. I hate to break it to you if you didn't already know. They're not real people. Sometimes they are. But that right there, you couldn't do that in the past, let alone, that is not weeks of work. That may be an hour. And as you get proficient, that's 5 minutes. if you have the right tools. If you're not investing time to learn, you're falling behind. If you're not investing and helping your teams to learn, you are falling behind. If AI is one you just hear that's nebulous and you don't want to spend any time on, you're falling behind. Shame on you. There is nothing, in my opinion, you should be investing more of your development time on than AI, because it's really how do you apply it to develop yourself. You want to come up with training sessions? Here you go. Think about the way you can apply and how people learn and what they do today with podcasts. Let me give you another example. So ChatGPT has an extension. I paid for right now the more expensive version, but it creates videos. So I took the logo. I said, hey, can you animate this? 30 seconds, this is what I get. Animation. Now, might not be the perfect one, might not be the one you want. I can tell it to do different things. But that is one sentence dropped in with the logo, and that's what I get back. Think about in the days when you had videos and professionals who were developing stuff and what you could do. I actually, and I didn't include it because I would run short on time, but you can go and say, create me an economic development video highlighting X, Y, Z, and guess what you're going to get back? And then you can overlay it with music and other things like that. For those, many of you, this is going to be basic. But for those who might not use ChatGPT, I still want to go and bring this in because it doesn't have to be scary. So there are lots of tools. I use ChatGPT. You can use whatever you want. But here's an example. In the upper right-hand corner, this is what I wrote. Write Jane Chavez a thank you note for inviting me to speak at South Carolina Power Team Economic Development Review. Include how happy I was to rekindle our relationship after more than 30 years. So you can say this is impersonal, but guess what? I have dyslexia. Some of these things might take me a little longer to write than others. Hi, James. I wanted to take a moment to sincerely thank you for inviting me to speak at South Carolina Team Power and Economic Development Review. It was a fantastic event. I truly appreciated the opportunity to contribute to the conversation about the future of manufacturing infrastructure. Now, did I tell it anything about manufacturing infrastructure? How does it know that? It gets smarter over time the more I use it. And guess what? I use it for some of my presentation to go and help me with different things, right? So that says, even more than that, it was great to reconnect after more than 30 years. It's amazing how paths cross again, and I really enjoyed rekindling our relationship. I look forward to staying in touch and finding ways to collaborate in the future. Thanks again for the hospitality and putting together such a valuable event. Wishing you and the South Carolina Power Team continued success. Really nice thank you note, don't you think? Very personable. So then I said, you know, in the upper right, I said, that's a good draft, but please rewrite it and include a mention of thanks for including my wife, Jen, and how much she enjoyed being here with me. So similar first sentence, even more than that, than in the middle, it was great to reconnect after more than 30 years. It's amazing how paths cross again, and I really enjoyed rekindling our relationship. Jen and I also wanted to thank you for including her. She had a wonderful time and really enjoyed being part of the experience with me. Look forward, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, well, that's great. But I said, can you also mention that we enjoyed getting to know James' wife, Stevie? Now, I did misspell Stevie on purpose, okay? Because I want to show you one thing here. So then it added a little bit more in there. And in the sentence, it was also a pleasure getting to know Stevie. Jen and I both enjoyed our conversations with her, and we're grateful for the warm hospitality from both of you. Then I said, hey, is it spelled Stevie or Stevie? ChatGPT says, I'm not certain of the correct spelling of her name. If you're unsure, you might want to double check or use a neutral phrasing such as, it was also a pleasure getting to know your wife. It gets smarter as you get smarter. Now, how do you use it to apply things? You write a long email. My wife tells me I'm way too long in my emails, that kind of stuff. Drop it in. Say, can you rewrite this and make it more concise? You'll be amazed at what you get back. There are so many things and ways that you can use it. Once you start using it, you're going to find new ways to think about how you can apply it to make your life easier. I had assistants for much of my career. And I used to always tell my assistants, if you write a draft for me, I might rewrite every word, but it'll take me 5 minutes to do a rewrite. It might take me an hour if I'm doing it on my own. Guess what? That's what I have with ChatGPT today. I might rewrite it all, but I'm so much more efficient with what I do. And you can go and say, it's impersonal. Hey, I'm never going to use email. It's so impersonal compared to handwritten notes. You still do handwritten notes at times, but just like Jen, I'm never going to use text. It's so impersonal. Guess what? You can be the last adopter, or you can be on the front end and create a competitive advantage for you and your teams. If you think that you're going to go and limit your teams from being able to use this stuff, shame on you. Everybody else is. So, one other thing, and there's so many different tools that are out there too that are created around AI. So in my manufacturing experience, I didn't have this. I probably should have blocked out the names, but we use a thing at Weebix called Gong. Has anybody heard of Gong? I'm not surprised you haven't, but if you're in high tech, you have. You would be. So Gong is an AI tool that you can get a subscription to for your company. So if you're doing sales, customer service, customer success, those kind of things. And so whenever we have Teams meetings with our customers, potential sales clients or clients and that kind of stuff, we always have Gong going. And we let people know it's very transparent. Gong's recording the call. And 99% of the time, people don't have any problem with it. And what you get back is every morning, I get an email summary that says, here are all the activities and the meetings that your team has scheduled. Here's all the stuff from yesterday, and here are summary recaps. And it recaps in an executive summary exactly what just happened. And then I could go and pull up the call if I wanted. It's going to go and tell me what happened there in the call brief. And there's actually probably about 20 bullet points underneath that. And then I could go to any one of those bullet points, and I can see exactly in the call, and I can actually rewatch the call if I wanted. I can take a snippet of a call if I want to share it with others, or I want to use it for coaching. If I want to share, hey, here's some feedback from our customers, and send it to the development team. Or, hey, here's feedback from our customers about how we're interacting. Or I want to coach that customer success rep and say, hey, this might be a better way in which you can answer that. Or I can share it with everybody on the team and say, this is a great example. Look at how well they did in handling this situation. It's only one of a bazillion tools that are out there that will apply to you. And what doesn't exist today only doesn't exist because we're not thinking about it. So, what do I say? Replace fear with fun. Replace complacency with fun. Use it. Try it. Don't be afraid of it. If you're afraid of it, you're going to fall behind. If I had one piece of advice with AI, it's you have to learn prompting. So I have friends. I'm from California. Still have a lot of friends at Google and a lot of the high-tech companies. Had a couple out at my house, and their number one thing is learn prompting. So prompting, what is prompting? Prompting is the process of interacting with the AI system by providing instructions or queries to get the desired outcome. There are actually disciplines now where people are being trained to be prompt engineers. That's what they're learning. And so this is a critical one. So just a quick set of things, be specific. Use the act as if, hey, ChatGPT, act as if you're the audience in what you do, or I'm a hiring manager, or whatever it might be. Tell how you want your output. Specify the output to be presented. Do I want it in bullet points? Do I want it in slides? Do I want it in whatever format? Use do's and don'ts. Don't do this, do that. Consider the tone of the audience. You can say, hey, I want this to be upbeat. Hey, I want this to be a little more reserved. Or it'll change the tone of the language that's used. But if there's anything to learn that's going to help you and your teams, it's prompting, and it's crazy how quickly this is really developing as a field. This is going to be an important discipline. If your company became great at just using AI and learning how to do prompts, you will have a competitive advantage. I promise. I don't care what industry or what you do. Now, what does all this mean for infrastructure? Because I know I'm tight on time. Infrastructure is really important. It's really the foundation. For those who are developing sites and facilities and others, it's really important. And that's, what's the pipe that's coming in? Fiber or otherwise. And then what's the infrastructure they're using there, whether it be Wi-Fi, LTE, private LTE, 5G coming, depending on what the format is. And then you need to have coverage. So today, it's not a problem to have capabilities at people's computers on their desk. right? Because those are all generally hardwired, and that's how most infrastructure is set up. Where the problem comes in is I have a manufacturing facility, and I have a refrigerator, a freezer that's all concrete. How do I make sure I have connectivity everywhere so that I can have people, machines, or equipment all being able to interact and start to leverage this technology as it emerges? That is not out there very well today. And I actually heard kind of analogous to that from many of you in the audience over the last few days, where how many people have talked about during the pandemic it showed up, and we're in this rural community. I heard one was an example. We're in this rural community, and actually we look like rock stars because our county, our town had gone and invested in fiber. And then during the pandemic, we were actually set up great. And how many others, I've also heard the opposite. During the pandemic, it really showed how inadequate we were when you had people staying at home and trying to work from home. They didn't have the infrastructure. Now apply that into manufacturing. Becomes even more important. So you start to see that, and you need that if you're going to be able to use AI and automation out in the manufacturing environments, whether it be manufacturing, oil and gas, you name the industry, that's what's needed, and that's a challenge today. So many existing locations lack that infrastructure. Upgrading existing systems, versus building. That's the cost comparison, the ROI. Cost savings, and efficiency gains are often there when it's already pre-built and existing in the facility. This is going to be an interesting time because, as developers, many developers here, are you developing for somebody? Are you going to have that infrastructure, that cost trade-off today versus what that benefit is long-term in capabilities? And we don't even know what the future holds. Do you need all that hardware? Is it going to change? Is it going to be wireless and other technologies that are going to emerge? We don't know. But I would say today you need to really be thinking about future-proofing your facilities because there's a lot more that's coming. There's going to need to be bigger pipes because there's going to be a lot more information passing back and forth, and everything needs to be able to be connected. So like at Weavix, we struggle when we go into some facilities. Some facilities have great infrastructure, great Wi-Fi, great LTE or whatever, and it works fantastic in those environments. Some really only have spotty coverage because they haven't had to think about it, and it's really a challenge. And then we got to look at what technology we're going to use or work with them to be able to make sure they have full coverage. Comparing, the future and the current state, but what's it really mean for manufacturing? I know I'm tight on time, Jay, so I'll finish up here. So what do I see for manufacturing? Autonomous equipment. Now, autonomous equipment's been around for a long time, but it's getting smarter and smarter and being used in bigger and bigger ways. So it used to just be you had AGVs, automatic guided vehicles, in a warehouse that might be driving around and moving a pallet of product. Today, you have John Deere and others who have multi-ton dump trucks and big, heavy equipment that's starting to move to be autonomous, especially in mining operations. You have a 5-ton truck fully loaded without a person in it, moving in a rural area. Guess what? If your infrastructure goes down or you don't have an ability to have consistent, reliable, redundant infrastructure for your connectivity, you're in trouble. Because you have all of AI, all of the smart technology needs to be able to be connected to the internet in essence. That's how you can think about it. So we see more autonomous. Predictive maintenance. So I grew up in maintenance. I ran maintenance back in Toledo, Ohio in 95. Have maintenance been a key area of focus. Forever and a day, we've talked about predictive, preventive, all kinds of different maintenance. Guess what? It is changing exponentially now as you have the ability to apply AI to really do analytics and to do prediction unlike we've ever been able to do before. Just because it's so much smarter, can look at so much more data, and can do it in such a more dynamic way than we've ever been able to do in the past. Smart processes, how do we connect? How do we optimize? How do we change things in real time depending on the demand, the signals, those kind of things? All of those are now not just going through people, but many of those things are starting to get connected. Manufacturing is oftentimes slow to adopt. I think manufacturing compared to many industries is behind. We do have automation, but I look at my oldest son. He's Northwestern grad, IT. He's not interested in working in manufacturing. He's chasing the sexy social media, other development, and those kind of things. You don't see some of that talent always in manufacturing. And when we don't see that talent in manufacturing, I think we have a lot of unknown problem, or we are not able to see the solutions that are in front of us or the potential solutions because we don't have those people working in our environment. So we'd say, oh, I could fix this, or oh, we could do this or that. And we don't know the technology always from a manufacturing standpoint that could be applied and how it could be used differently. We've talked about automation and robotics and that kind of stuff, but those have not always worked, right? Those can be very expensive, very high capital investments, and sometimes I've been part of so many of those automation projects that haven't always worked. I think it's going to change very quickly here. And then collaboration. You know, it's not, I don't think about AI and I don't think about technology, for example, like Weavix. I don't think about trying to eliminate the workforce. I think about trying to optimize the workforce, trying to empower them to use their mind, to use their talents in a different way. And you give people power, give them the ability, push decision rights to where the work's being done, magic can happen. So call the developers. You know, you need to invest now. You need to be thinking about today, you know, what are the sites? How do we integrate? What do you really think about for connectivity? And how are you thinking about it differently? Can South Carolina be a bastion for really tech and connectivity and have different infrastructure than many other states? Can you get yourself in a position where you have a competitive advantage over many others by being forward thinking and how everybody works together? You know, how do you attract with that the leaders of industry, the companies of industry that are going to make a difference? And you do that by having smart, ready facilities. And then, like I said, how do you gain that edge? By being forward thinking about your infrastructure. Infrastructure is critical. Without the infrastructure, without the capabilities to be able to connect and leverage the technology that's emerging, you're not going to have the advantage. So with that, you know, develop your strategies, you know, work on your sites, but I'm kind of time here, so I will open it up for questions or things. Hopefully I've been able to help gain a little bit of knowledge, not be too scared, but maybe take off for some who don't use some of the technology, some of the mystique that maybe you hear.